Man, oh man, this is a blast to the past. Take a look at this. We're talking about Boston Bruins prospect Fabian Lysell today. But before we dive into the scoop, the trade speculation and the apparent interest in him from Edmonton, I wanted to shine a spotlight on some of these. 4 years ago, we made a Why I Want video talking about Lysell as a sleeper first overall pick. A guy who was absolutely cracked in Sweden when he was a younger prospect. And we also did talk about whether or not the Canucks actually wanted this guy back in the day. Bo Horvat. That's a really interesting trade conversation as well. Fabian Lysell has been all over the channel over the past little while, especially when it comes to Vancouver Canucks trade discussion, mostly because this guy did play for the Vancouver Giants and he was a fan favorite in 21-22. But today we're talking about this Boston Bruins prospect because of some rumors linking him to Edmonton. Lysell is 22 years old, 5'11", 181, a right-handed winger who was drafted by the Bruins in the 21st overall spot in 2021. This is a guy whose skating was one of the best in the 2021 draft. You think about Owen Power and Matty Beniers and all them, Fabian Lysell, you could debate his skating alone and his supercharged aggressiveness put him near the top of the draft class in terms of overall projection. Even the scouting report over here says that Lysell's skating form is nearly perfect, with great posture, depth, and flexibility at the ankles, knees, and hips, giving him straight-line speed and two-step quickness to burn. Lysell spots teammates through layers and has the deft touch to get them the puck when the time is right. He scans regularly, reloads to support his D-men, tracks well through the neutral zone, and his work rate never wanes. Not to mention the fact that Lysell was ranked as highly as number 9 by elite prospects in their 2021 draft rankings. Future considerations had him at 11, McKean's at 10, McKenzie at 14, Button had him at 30, which was a lot lower, unfortunately. But he was ranked as an A-tier prospect by elite prospects back in 2021. There was a lot to like out of this Swedish winger. As the years went on, though, Fabian Lysell's fanfare went up and down a little bit. I mean, his time in Vancouver, the Giants that is, was really good, and inevitably he became a near-point-per-game AHL Providence Bruins player, scoring 50 points in 56 games played in 23-24. He ended up getting a cup of coffee with the regular Boston Bruins in 24-25, 3 points in 12 games, scoring his first NHL goal, which is nice to see, but it's not really in the best spot as of right now. Which is why we're going over onto a tweet made by Bruins diehards on Twitter that goes out there and asks the question as to whether or not the Bruins are giving up on Fabian Lysell. Rumors are flying that Boston's been talking in a trade with Edmonton, and Lysell's name is right in the middle of it. This YouTube video will be linked in the description below, but we also have ourselves an article that will be linked in the description too by Danielle Lusant that expands a little bit more on this Fabian Lysell Oilers talk. NHL insider Dominic Tiano of dom.hockey.com has revealed the Oilers and Bruins are having chats about a possible trade involving Fabian Lysell. Recent news from Tiano states that the Bruins and Oilers may be involved in trade discussions. Tiano, who is well respected in Boston for his prospect coverage, opines that dealing Lysell would be reasonable for the Bruins. Said Court Lalonde of the Bruins Die Hard podcast, when the Boston Bruins used their first-round pick in the 2021 draft to select Lysell, fans saw a glimpse of the type of player the franchise rarely has a chance to draft, a pure offensive talent with blazing speed, elite hands, and top-6 potential. Fast forward to today, and instead of talking about him becoming a fixture in the Bruins lineup, the conversations have shifted. Rumors are swirling that Bruins may be dangling Lysell in a trade with the Oilers. Dominic Tiano suggested in my Discord that the Bruins and the Oilers have been in conversation. Now, Discord is all of a sudden being used as a source to talk about NHL trade rumors and discussion, but still, there's really nothing else that we can go out there and talk about, so let's dive into this here. It is a pretty interesting report, and Dominic Tiano is a guy that has had some sort of a platform the past little while covering the Boston Bruins and being in a spotlight. I mean, his Twitter account, he's got, how many followers does he have? He's got 6,000. He does stuff on OHL writers. He does the podcast for What's Bruin as well. I mean, Dominic Tiano has his sources, and he's got people in the NHL world connected to him, so I don't want to go out there and immediately dismiss him just because he said it on Discord, but still, it's kind of interesting that now we're talking about Discord as a potential NHL trade rumor source. This also, by the way, was written and expanded about on an article on Edmonton Journal, which we'll dive into as well. Let's go out there and look at it. Fabian Lysell, Edmonton. Here it is. So, Edmonton Journal went out there and posted this yesterday on their website. Oilers in trade talks for a first-round winger from the Boston Bruins. David Staples wrote this piece. It'll be linked in the description as well. Number 1, Tiano has a reputation in Boston of being a good source of news on Bruins prospects. I can't speak conclusively to his credibility or his sources, but he's well enough regarded in Boston, and this rumor makes sense from the Boston perspective, though maybe not so much from the Edmonton perspective. 2, it's logical that the Bruins would be thinking of trading off Lysell, even as he was their first-round pick in 2021. Boston grabbed him 1 pick before the Oilers took Bourgault, who was traded away by the Oilers last summer. Lysell has been much more successful in the AHL than Bourgault. He's known for his speed and skill passing, but he's failed to make the Bruins after 3 AHL years, and his point production in the AHL trended down last season. He's also in the final year of his ELC. This past March, Boston coach Joe Sakic said of him, "The reports from Providence are all positive as far as his game down there. Not just offensively, but his 200-foot game, his play away from the puck, his ability to stay on pucks. The things we need to see from him from some of the young players, it's good that he's getting an opportunity. At some point, we'll see him in the lineup here." Does that sound to you like a coach who wants a young and flashy prospect to develop the checking skills necessary to help out in the AHL as a role player? That's how I hear it. 4. It's not a good step if a prospect takes a step back in the AHL. This doesn't mean he cannot become a competent NHL player or even a top 6 option for some team, but those top 6 possibilities aren't screaming out from him from his statistical drop this past year. He's also a smaller forward, and the Oilers are already well stocked with that kind of player in Ike Howard, Matt Savoy, and Mangiapane. Now, the folks on the podcast ended up mentioning Savoy and Podkolzin as possible swapped players in a Lysell trade, but it's hard to imagine either player makes sense from an Oilers perspective. Savoy is a year younger than Lysell, a higher draft pick, and had a better year in his first AHL season than Lysell did in his third. The other year, they played in the same league, 21-22 in the Western Hockey League. The younger Savoy had 90 points, and Lysell had 62. Savoy has 2 more years of being waiver ineligible, and 2 more years on his lower ELC salary, Lysell just 1 year. As for Podkolzin, Edmonton is desperate for size, speed, aggression, and defensive play, and Podkolzin does bring that, so moving him out would seem to be a non-starter unless his contract demands are way out of line. Even then, it's hard to imagine the Oilers would consider moving him for Lysell, given they have 3 of that type of player already in Howard, Savoy, and Mangiapane. Now, I will say, the way Fabian Lysell is able to go, I think that's the biggest thing that you can hang your hat on here. I do believe more so in Lysell's motor and his feet over Isaac Howard and Mangiapane. And that's kind of saying something, right? Because Mangiapane, he's a speedster himself. But Fabian Lysell, just remembering what I remember from his draft-eligible year 4 years ago, I get it was 4 years ago, but this guy had some of the best wheels in the entire draft. You want somebody to potentially fit alongside a Connor McDavid. I mean, you talk about Savoy, you talk about Howard, Fabian Lysell could be right in that mix. Now, making a trade with one of those guys does seem more like a lateral move, or maybe even a downgrade, so I don't know why the Oilers would trade away a Savoy or a Howard for Lysell, but the idea that the Oilers are indeed interested in him, it doesn't surprise me considering the type of player they've gone after in the past. So with all this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this former potential first overall pick in 2021? Do you think he's actually going to get traded over to Edmonton? I would be kind of jealous as a Canucks fan because we have been talking about this guy as a potential Canucks target for years now. But thoughts in the comment section either way about Fabian Lysell and these Bruins and Oilers trade rumors. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.